brought my pencil. Give me something to write on,
Hey everyone, welcome to the Meridian Learning and Development Hangout with Fistful of Talent. My name's Allison. I'm with Meridian, and today I'm joined by Chris Dunn, who is the CHRO of Kinetics, and then also the founder of Fistful of Talent, and then Ed Baldwin, who is the founder of HRO Partners. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Doing great, Allison. Good to be here. I see Ed's got a tie on. He's so fancy.
Oh yeah, he showed up in all the dressed to the nines today. So today we're talking about being career agents, and I know that you guys have taken this whole learning and development thing on the road recently together. So my first question for you is to define the concept of a manager as a career agent.
So Ed, I'll get us started on this one. You know, it's something I really believe in, and I think the people who do learning and development well, when they're training managers, whether they call it career agent or not, I think they inherently do this. For me, a career agent is a manager of people inside a company that always has not only the development of the individuals that they manage in mind, but they've also got what's best for their career. So whether they're talking about performance, whether they're talking about like dirty work that's got to be done in a company, they always find a way to tie it back to the fact that doing the work is in fact good for the employee, and it's good for the employee or the direct report really beyond like that day or that week, that there's actually an end game and that they always have the line of sight to understand what's best for the employee, and they've got their best interests at heart. Ed, would you define it any differently?
No, I wouldn't. I think that's spot on, Chris, and I wore the tie today partially because I'm going to try to limit the number of Jerry Maguire references that I have today.
That's hard, I know that's hard.
Because when I think about a career agent, I think about somebody like Jerry Maguire, right, in the movie, and you know, having, like you said, an end game, but then also, you know, having a relationship with somebody that extends beyond the job and beyond the role that they have to play, and thinking about the whole person and being a part of that. In an intimate way. And I think, you know, that's, in my mind, how a career agent gets defined. So.
Good. I like it.
I like it too. So I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but for anyone that's watching this live, the Q&A section on the right of your screen might not be working, but if you do have questions or comments during the Hangout, feel free to tweet them using the hashtag LD Hangout, and we'll answer those for you. So my next question is, how can a manager show their employee that they're a career agent while still making sure all the work gets done?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a lot of ways. I'll take a couple and I'll throw it to Ed. I think, you know, first of all of us as managers of people, and for the learning development professionals on this call, the people you're trying to train up to have better conversations with those folks, you know, it probably starts out like with the interview process, right? Like when you're actually interviewing people, you know, it's one thing to evaluate. If Allison's interviewing with me, for example, Allison, I know you're a great interviewer, but you know, part of the job is once I figure out that Allison is in fact somebody that I have some probability to hire, during that interview process, I've got to find out like what her goals and her ambitions are. I've got to find out what makes her tick, and then I've got to really turn on a little bit more of a sales mode, right? I've got to start telling her why what she wants can actually be accomplished through taking the job at my company, and why I'm the right manager, and I've got a track record of taking people like her and helping them get the next best step for their career, and then ultimately preparing them for things beyond that. That's kind of like the concept, like at a very early stage in that manager-employee relationship, where you would start to convert that. And I think too many times, Ed, and I'll throw it to you to talk about other like places in the life cycle, we can go back and forth on this a little bit. I think too many times, if I know Allison's going to be in my final two candidates, I just feel that in the interview, then I'm going to get what I need from a standpoint of evaluating her as a candidate. But then I've got to turn on that career agent mode there, because it's a competitive marketplace for people. And like I got to start that right then and there, right, Ed?
Yeah, exactly right. So my first Jerry Maguire reference, help me help you.
Right.
Help me help you, right? And so, again, I think it's the relationship beyond the job and the supervisor and the direction. And it's helping create an alignment between what that person's job duties are and something that's broader and bigger that they have aspirations for in their career. And so, yeah, there's a lot of points in the employee life cycle, I think, where an employee, a leader, a manager can iterate the importance and the alignment between what they're doing in their daily tasks and that broader career aspiration and interest. But I believe that's firmly a key part of being able to display a kind of a career agent mentality instead of I'm just your supervisor evaluating what you're doing on a day in, day out basis.
Well, and I'll give you another example just from my life this week, Ed. So like in addition to recruiting, once you have a team and you're actually talking, so we've got a new person joining the team at Kinetics, the team I manage very specifically. And one of the things we talked about today, and it's kind of been something that's been in process for a couple of weeks, is, hey, we've got a new person coming in. That person is more junior than some of the incumbents that are really in the same type of position. So really what we're talking about is really a form of kind of, work management. We're talking about what the collective body of work is. And we're talking about since we've got a new opportunity with the new person coming, it's brand new to Kinetics, brand new to the world of marketing, which is the team in question. We're actually talking about, okay, what in your current job would you love to get out of? Because this new person's got a lot to do to kind of learn the ins and outs of Kinetics. They're going to learn a lot from doing any type of task, and all of the work is valuable, but that's a great opportunity for a manager to think about, okay, I've got a team of 4 to 5 people, new person coming in, kind of at the same level, but I've got these experienced folks. It's a great time to kind of rebalance what people are working on. And just by doing that, you're kind of signaling the fact that you want to grow them in their career. And it kind of answers the question, okay, you guys have been here a year, 2 years, what's next, right? As we divide this work, what's next for you? What do you want to work on? Because we may have an opportunity here. So Ed, I'll throw that back to you. That's a great opportunity to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what you're talking about, Chris, is sponsorship and connections.
Right.
And not just guiding them in regards to the specific task for their particular role, but helping them develop the networks and the connectivity with others that can also support and help them along the way. Again, not just beyond their current job, but success organizationally in the company is going to have a lot to do with more than just the relationship between that employee and their direct supervisor. So I think you're talking about kind of greasing the skids and creating the connections that are going to be necessary for them to be able to achieve their aspirations. Again, tell me when I go too far in this Jerry Maguire thing, but I'm imagining, him walking through, introducing him to all the agents, all the other owners, which I know we're going to get to in a little while, because as a leader manager, that's really hard. If you've got a really great employee, how do you give them up, right? And I'm sure we're going to get there. So I'll leave that for a little bit later here. But sponsoring them beyond your own department, beyond your own credit as a leader of a particular team, I think is really key, and it can be really challenging for leaders and managers to do that.
Great. Allison, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, no, this is perfect, and I'm really loving the Jerry Maguire references. So do you guys have any advice on the best way to train managers to adopt this philosophy? And then I'm also curious, if it's a different approach for people who are new to management in general in adopting that philosophy.
Yeah, well, I think, the general, new managers are more mechanical in nature than old veterans. Not old veterans, but I'll say veterans like Ed, right? So, new managers are more mechanical. So this is going to be kind of the sophomore, junior, senior level class on managing people. I think, if you're a learning and development professional out there and you're looking at your stack of manager training, what I would tell you is that there are role plays and even looking at your content. So I mentioned at the onset, kind of this concept of managers as career agents as we think about learning and development really starts with interviewing skills, right? Because you want to show to the candidates that you believe in that you are, in fact, a career agent, and if they choose you over other places, that's good for their career. So what you've got is in your managerial training stack, whether it's interviewing skills, whether it's goal setting, whether it's performance management, whether it's coaching, you want to make sure that there are dialogue points and that there are emphasis points where, rather than just getting through the mechanics of the skill in question, for example, interviewing. Did you find the right candidate through how you interview, whether that's behavioral interviewing or what have you? If you do performance management a certain way, if you coach people a certain way, you want to make sure that there's this layer, and I'll throw it to you, Ed, you want to make sure that there's this layer of what's in it for me as the candidate or the employee. What's in it for me? So you're doing these things. You're interviewing me. You're telling me what my goals are, or we're like doing that process together. You're giving me a performance review. At some point, you've got to transition from the mechanics of getting that work done as a manager and talking about the employee, where they're going in their career, and why the process you're going for is good for them, and why the outcomes are good for them as well. Ed, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think you've nailed it, Chris, in terms of it's important to layering it into a lot of the existing systems and structures that are already in play. I don't necessarily see this sort of training and development as necessarily an isolated sort of an opportunity, but rather at varying points of the employee life cycle. And then the other comment that I would make is, while certainly the formal classroom and the formal training and that sort of thing can be of help, I think a lot of this comes experientially. Challenging people to think about the best career agents, the best coaches, the best leaders they've ever been around, and drawing from those experiences the things that created that great experience. Right. And I think they'll find that it has a lot to do with the activities that you're describing, and they get layered in beyond just the to-dos in terms of performance management, succession planning, coaching, guiding people with regards to their successes in their current job. I think, great leadership and being a great career agent extends well beyond that. And oftentimes you just learn that from others. I think we're going to get to that here in a little bit in terms of thinking about who are the career agents in your existing firm. But a lot of times it has to do with the fact that they just become a magnet for talent, because those tend to be the kind of people that others want to work for.
Yeah, and I would say, before we throw it back to Allison, they become magnets for talent because, whatever you call it, we're calling it career agents, but it's a philosophy in terms of like managing people and really like developing a flock that you look out for. Whether you call it career agent or not, it's something inherent and it's the same. And I do think, as Ed, as you mentioned, it's an experience-based thing, right? You start out as a manager of people and you're kind of mechanical, and then you kind of learn the art over the science, maybe.
Yep, absolutely.
So my next question, and I think you've touched on it a little bit here and there, but specifically for like learning and development departments, is there a way that they can morph this kind of concept and training into the materials they already have?
Yeah, we did. So we did cover that a little bit earlier, but I think it's worth going back to. I think you've got to look at your training stack for managers of people, and you've got to, kind of taking this at a high level, you've got to think about, do you have, Ed mentioned that it's, experiential and it's developed with experience. The goal of any learning and development department related to looking at your training stack for managers of people and trying to develop them into being career agents, some of them are going to get it over a decade, right? That's kind of what Ed's talking about. The best ones become magnets for people because they kind of learn that this is how you do it and this is what people react to, and you get the best results out of it. So when you're looking at your managerial training stack, what you've got to do is you've got to try and take that decade's worth of learning and give them talking tracks and feedback and thinking points that'll get them there in a couple years rather than in a decade. Right, Ed?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think mentoring and coaching are two areas. Again, you be careful about the formality of introducing those programs. But right. I think we create interactions with those most seasoned and experienced folks in terms of being a career agent, as we've classified it, getting the interactions with those junior folks that are inherently going to be more mechanical, as you've described. But I think developing that kind of connectivity in terms of your training and development stack with mentoring and coaching type programs, I think is a really key, because it's going to speed the learning process, as you described, Chris, from a decade to, a few years.
And I'll give you one example. So if you do training on how to do performance reviews as a learning and development professional, well, you've got a lot of mechanical things that are happening based on what your process is, the technology you use, how you do it. One of the things that's a constant is if I'm rating Ed on his, I'm trying to be funny here, but I guess I won't try and be funny. I can't rate him on his dress because it's stellar, really.
His references for pop culture.
If I'm rating him on his ability, let's say, to present to clients, okay, just take a general one. One thing that never changes is I've got to describe what I see, and I have to assign a rating to it, right? So one easy way in that scenario, I'll just give you one example of 100 that you could change how you do your training and development for managers, is I would tell Ed that the expectation is that I'm going to make a statement in any like verbatim comment that I write. I'm going to make a statement that reinforces the rating that I give him. So if I say, Ed, I think generally you're good. You meet expectations at your client presentation. Here's why. Here's some consistent things that I see that are good, because meeting my expectations is not a bad thing. But how you like kind of interweave the career agent thing into it is you say, and having said that, Ed, here's a couple of things that you can work on to take it to the next level, to become great rather than good. And if you do that, it's really important because I think it's going to help you in your career because you're going to get these benefits out of it. And I think too many times we do the mechanical training for managers of people, that element is not included. And that's just one example of how you could get to it.
Right.
That's great. I have one more question I think both of you are really excited to talk about, which is, do you have career agents in your company? How can you tell that these people exist within your organization?
So Ed, I'll let you take this one first. I've been domineering the first take.
No, like I said a little earlier, I think it does come down to a great deal of, you can tell who your career agents are because they tend to be the people that others want to work for and with. So whether that's in a direct reporting relationship or it may be in another function or another particular department of the company, but those are the folks that people want to interact with, they want to be around, and they want to be coached and mentored. If you introduce a formal coaching and mentoring program and you offer up who individuals want as mentors, these are the folks' names that are going to get mentioned most often. And so while that seems pretty informal way of kind of identifying, I think it's one of the most obvious ways to do that.
Right.
So, I think that's one way that you can develop agents. The other thing that I can say in terms of identifying agents is they're people that think broader than their department. They think beyond the mechanics, and they represent their employees, the folks that work for them, as employees of the company, not employees of the department, not a member of accounting or marketing or a particular area, but employees of the company. And they tend to view their employees with kind of broad-based skills and try to find transferable ways to apply those for the betterment of the company and the employee itself. And so, go ahead.
And Ed, I agree with everything you said. Allison, I'll give you one quick one. Employees know who the career agents are in your company, and Ed has already said that. One way you can have employees identify them for you, next employee survey, include a verbatim question that says, other than your current manager, who would you want to work for in our company and why? Because employees talk all the time. They know who inherently has their career prospects in mind, and those talent magnets that Ed's mentioned multiple times in our brief time together today, those talent magnets, for every 100 employees, you'll get 2 people that really stand out as the answer to that question on that verbatim in your employee survey. And then what you do, it's perfect because your managers want to read the verbatim comments of any employee survey. That's where they go, because they want to try and think about who said what and things like that. And they'll see those same 2 people and you ask them why. And inherently the employees will describe, well, I love them because they're always looking out for me and they develop talent. They won't say it exactly like that, but to Ed's point, that's the paraphrase of really what they're saying.
Right. And, we've all had the experience of great managers, great leaders that acted as career agents for us.
Right.
So even the ones that call ourselves experienced, seasoned, or old, however you want to describe it, right? We can draw on those experiences, and we we were attracted to those individuals, and they helped us along. And maybe they even saw particular qualities in us, transferable skill sets, extensions either in the company or outside the company that, you know, at first glance we didn't see. I mean, I had a manager and a leader many moons ago that saw sales opportunities for me and ended up doing a stint in sales. And there were a lot of people in the company that were saying, this is an HR guy. How in the world are you going to put him into a sales environment? But saw some transferable skill sets that maybe on the surface even I didn't see, and then was able to sponsor and support me in that role. And I think that is the essence of being a career agent.
Well, this is great stuff, guys. We're coming to the end of our session, but I thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Thanks, Allison. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you so much.